Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing today? Well, actually, it's the evening. It's like 7 o'clock in the evening right now with the time after change. But today, I'm reviewing my own car. This is a 2012 Mazda 3 with the 2-liter Skyactiv engine. Now, just to talk a little bit about this car, this has a 6-speed automatic, and this has the 2-liter Skyactiv engine that I just mentioned. And honestly, I love this thing. Even though it's an automatic and I'm a huge stick driver, I love this car. I have no regrets over this car whatsoever. Let me give you a better view. But honestly, this is probably like the best first car you can probably have. Compact car, especially maybe perhaps a Mazda with the handling inspirations that they usually have. This is such a fun car to drive, believe it or not. And it handles fairly well too. You know, sometimes I will take it to a corner a little faster than usual and this thing will do it like nothing. And I love that about this car. Now, to talk specifically about this engine here, this has the 2-liter Skyactiv engine. Now, the Skyactiv engine himself came out in 2012 with this car. And one difference you can tell from this car than any other Mazda 3 is the blue ring right here around the headlight. That is the main difference that you can tell that this is a Skyactiv engine. And basically all the Skyactiv engine is that it's an engine that gives a lot better gas mileage due to the injectors and stuff. And let me tell you, it gives really good gas mileage.
Alright, I just moved the car just a little bit just so that you can see a little better view with the better lighting and stuff. Anyways, this is the 2012 Mazda 3. It's a four-door compact sedan, and honestly it has decent space. So Mazda came out with the Mazda 3, I believe in 2005 or 6. Okay, and then this is the second generation of Mazda. Now Mazda really started to change when the Skyactiv motor came out, and what's so special about the Skyactiv motor is that I believe it's when the injectors when they started playing with the spark plugs and injectors. I don't know much about what they exactly did specifically with the Skyactiv engine. All I know is that the Skyactiv engine made a significant change with fuel consumption. This car is significantly better than most of the 4-cylinders today, and that's just for the simple reason is that the way they actually retuned and engineered the spark plugs and fuel injectors. Okay, now also, if you haven't heard, recently Mazda is also doing a Skyactiv X motor, which still know a little bit of information about it. That's when it's like a non-spark plug engine where basically the car saves about, like, I believe like almost 80% of its fuel, which that's like downright insane. But that's not in this car. This is just the first generation of the Skyactiv G motor, and the Skyactiv G motor was a 2-liter 4-cylinder that produced 146 horsepower and I believe 150 pound-feet of torque, if I'm not wrong about that torque number. Okay, and this, you can have it with a 6-speed manual transmission or a 6-speed automatic transmission, which this car has. And let me tell you, honestly, if you choose the automatic or manual, both are really good. I do prefer the manual, but I never got the manual. I just got the automatic, and honestly, the automatic, it's really good. The way they tune this transmission and the way this car responds is actually very good. Now, obviously, you do get the laggy automatic, you know, downshifts and stuff. So yeah, you do get that little tiny lag compared to a manual transmission. But honestly, this transmission is absolutely phenomenal, and I have no complaints about this transmission whatsoever.
All right, now sitting in the back seat of the Mazda 3, this is obviously adjusted to my seating position, and honestly it's very good. I'm 6 foot tall, and you do have, like, when I'm like sitting straight up and stuff, it's a little less of an inch, but like if you squish the seat a little bit, you have a little bit more of an inch. But when you're relaxed and stuff, you're actually very comfortable in the back seat of this car. I actually kind of find this car a little bigger for some reason than the 3rd generation of the Mazda 3. That's just in my opinion. I haven't sat in the 3rd gen Mazda 3 in a really long time, so I forgot how that felt. But honestly, it's very decent space in this back seat. And you also have a center armrest, and you also have 2 cup holders. And you can definitely sit in this back seat for a good drive. I mean, you could take this car all from here all the way to Orlando, which is like a 3-hour drive, and you could be perfectly comfortable with this car. And you also do have cup holders in the side of the car. You also have 2 ultra handles here. Okay, you have one right here in case you're really scared, and then you also have one here in case you're terrified for your living life. So Mazda made sure you are prepared for it. Now, coming in the driver's seats of the Mazda 3, now you have
a lot of stuff that's going on, but it's also fairly aged a little bit in this interior. Now this is a 2012. The last model year for the second generation of Mazda 3 was a 2013, and it came with the technology package with a nice screen and stuff. This model, it doesn't have a screen at all. It just has like a standard radio and stuff, and it also has like a little screen up front. Okay, now you have a little bit of storage here. You have a center armrest right here. You also have two little cup holders right here to just make sure. Let me just lower it a little bit so you can see actually. So you have your armrest right here, which you can also extend out, and then you have your two cup holders here, okay, and then you also have your e-brake here. You have your automatic shifter, and since this is a Grand Touring, it comes standard with heated seats, which it's pretty good. Don't get me wrong. When it's cold in Florida, you really want those seats on. It's very cold. It sometimes gets pretty cold in Florida. I mean, not compared to maybe up north and stuff, but it does get pretty chilly down here from time to time. All right, since it's closer to dark now, I can actually show you like the lighting and stuff when the headlights are on, and I put the headlights on and stuff. And you also have your cruise control for your steering wheel, and you also can just change your radio and also music and volume through the steering wheel and not necessarily through here. Now, just to show you the gauges, they are very basic. You know, you can just check your trip monitor. I just reset it not long ago when I just refilled it, and I have currently 73,000 miles on it. I bought this car used. And these are basically your basic gauges. You can also check your gears and see which one you're on. You can also go into manual mode and see what gear you're on, like first to second, and then you can go back to first. But we're not gonna drive yet, okay? But this is basically your basic setup. And then also here's where actually the interesting part comes in, okay? So I have a range right now of 241 miles, and I've only wasted a quarter of a tank. That's still crazy. I mean, honestly, I mean, this car can go almost 400 miles in one tank, which to me is just absolutely phenomenal. Now, if you also want, you can also change which one you want it to see, okay? You can see your radio list, you can see your maintenance and see what's going on. You can also see your average fuel economy and average speed, which I never go 18 miles an hour. That's my average speed for some reason. And then you can also check your navigation, which this car does have. Just press enter, and you have your navigation. Now, you can also set this navigation to a destination specifically. I'm not gonna do that because I really don't know how to do it. But anyways, you just basically keep it like that. And that's the basic interior of the Mazda 3. Now, setting off in the Mazda 3, okay? I'm gonna put my seatbelt on, and I'm just gonna tell you how this car generally drives and how the 140 horsepower feels. Now, if you can't really see my face that much, it's getting a little dark. It's the evening time, it's almost 8 o'clock. So just bear with me with how the brightness is, okay? So, taking off in the Mazda 3, it's very smooth. The 6-speed transmission is very smooth when taking off. There are times, however, where I do get a little struggling when going to reverse to drive sometimes. Sometimes when I'll be in reverse and then I'll shift to drive, sometimes the car will kind of jump a little bit. And honestly, I have no idea what that is. I think maybe that's something that needs to get fixed, but that's literally the only thing I had. And generally, the only issue I have with this vehicle was actually the mass airflow system. When I actually bought this car, the second day I had it, the mass airflow system went out and the car never idled properly. And when the car never idled properly, it just turned off right away, and I had to get a brand new airflow system to fix that. After that, the car gave me no issues. The car is absolutely phenomenal in gas. The car is absolutely beautiful to drive, and it handles fairly well, honestly. And just cruising down right now, it's very smooth. I love the power steering in this vehicle. Not entirely sure if it's hydraulic or just actual electrical power steering, but if it's electric power steering, it's actually really good. I have no issues about this whatsoever, because honestly, I can actually kind of start feeling the tires a little bit, unlike, you know, electric power steering where the whole steering wheel is just numb to you, okay? And then also talking about the handling a little bit, I'm cruising right now at 40 miles an hour. I really cannot just show you how good this thing handles right now. But there are times where I've actually went to the highway, and you know, if they have those turns, those round turns, I went about 60 miles an hour before, and that's not even close to the limit of this car, and it does it very good, honestly. Now, also with all right, we're about to enter the highway right now. We're entering I-75 right now, and here's how the we're gonna just test out how the 0 to 60 is. I'm not gonna be at a mere stop, but I'm just gonna full throttle and just show you how good the car handles right away. All right. Okay, that's 85. All right, so I basically went 70 miles an hour in that turn, or almost 80 actually, and the car did it like nothing. Now, obviously, that was getting closer to the limits of this car because remember, it's a compact car. It doesn't have the most amazing tuned suspension in the planet and stuff. So, but the way it handled fairly well. And honestly, you gain so much confidence with this car, just the way how it handles and how the chassis is. It's honestly just absolutely amazing. I love it. But what are the downsides of this car? What is the main downsides of this car? Well, Mazda eventually came out with the 2.5 liter Skyactiv engine, which produced now 180 horsepower and I believe 170 pound-feet of torque, if I'm not mistaken. And that is a much better engine choice to me, in my opinion, than this one, since this only produces 140 horsepower. But you know, it is what it is. This 2 liter is still gonna get better gas mileage than the 2.5, but just only by a couple of miles per gallon. Other things, this is a 2012, you are gonna feel a little dated. Now, with the competitors back then, this car was a little slightly dated. Now, I'm gonna compare this a little bit to the Ford Focus, because the Ford Focus had a much more modern interior than the Mazda 3 did, because it had more technology. It had a, I wouldn't say nicer interior, because honestly, the Ford Focus interior was fairly cheap. Even the ST model was just probably my favorite car of all time. And honestly, that car felt a little more modern than this car, and that's something that took Mazda a little bit of a minute for them to get used to, is how to modernize their vehicles. Now, if you actually see the brand new Mazdas now, they have become almost like a, I don't know how to say it, like an Audi with their interiors. Their interiors are just absolutely immaculate. They're just beautiful. You know, this is when the 2012 was basically the last year when Mazda was with Ford. And you can see a huge Ford relation with this car. And honestly, once Mazda changed with their new Coda design, that changed everything for Mazda. And that's something I have to give high respect to Mazda, because now Mazda's changed from being what used to be a cheap Japanese car manufacturer to a beautiful, high engineered car manufacturer. And I mean, yes, they still only use 4 cylinders. They still use the Skyactiv to this day like crazy. But honestly, their interiors and the power and the way these cars handle, it's just amazing, like how much they changed over the years. I mean, now we've gotten to the point that Mazda is using a turbo engine finally again, not like the legendary 2.3, but it's a 2.5 4-cylinder, which makes now, I believe, 250 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. And that's starting to go in every single car model besides the Mazda 3 for now. And hopefully, if Mazda really thinks about it, they might make a Mazda Speed 3. I don't know. Mazda is really not promoting the Mazda Speed brand anymore. The 2013 was the last model for the Mazda Speed 3, and I've driven a Mazda Speed 3, and that thing is just absolutely scary to drive. I mean, it's weird. It's like, the Mazda Speed 3 is just so fast. But coming back from the Mazda 3, honestly, for your first car, this is absolutely one of the best choices you can have. I mean, I personally like this car a lot more than the Toyota Corolla. Honda Civic, debatable. I do like the Honda Civic a lot, especially that SI. But if you really need a cheap car that has really good gas mileage, I would prefer this one over the Honda Civic, just for the simple reason, if you need an automatic, this is the best one to go for. I don't like the CVTs at all. I think they're just very rubbery whenever you just drive them, and honestly, it's not the best feeling ever to drive. Thank you so much for checking this video out. I hope you like it, and I please just subscribe to the channel and just promote this video, because I do want to make a lot more car reviews very soon. Thank you so much. Have a good